Erin.
Cheers, Sarah.
Ooh, oh, I see there what you've got there in your hands. What do you have there?
Yes, it's my Verbatim mug.
Oh my word, that's awesome. Yes, we do have Verbatim mugs that us coaches have. That's very cool.
Yeah, I thought I would start us off strong with a classic mug.
Oh, I love it. I'll have to get mine and do that one time. Oh, it's very cool. Very cool.
What mug do you have there, Sarah?
Oh, I have like a picture mug from our trip out to Yellowstone. I just love it so much. It reminds me of the scenery out there, the wildlife out there, the bison, the elk, the everything, there's glaciers, like snow on top of mountains. There's wolves. Oh my goodness, I just loved it out there so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta visit there at some point. It seems really beautiful.
You really do. It's total bucket list. It's worth. Oh my goodness, we drove out there. We went twice, like on the way out to the Pacific and on the way back to this where we live on the east coast of the North America. So like, yeah, totally worth it. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, hey, this is our very first episode. I'm so excited.
I know. I'm so excited too. We've been working so hard to make sure that this is fun and informative.
Yeah, it's totally like our mantra as us as people and us as business women for our company, Verbatim. So it's really about like learning a language, but always with a smile on your face, like goofing off, having fun.
Yeah, fun is like one of our core values at Verbatim, right?
Right.
And we've decided to call this podcast 20 Minutes a Day because later on and throughout this entire season, I guess, we'll be talking about how spending 20 minutes a day in a language is such a great way to improve your skills. So, without further ado, do you have 20 minutes on the clock, Sarah?
I sure do.
All right. Your 20 minutes starts now.
So, Erin, let's get down to the basics, the nitty-gritty. What is this show all about? Who are you? Who am I? And what is a verbatim after all? So, Erin, can we start with you? Like, can you introduce yourself to us?
Yes, of course. My name is Erin, and I'm currently working with Sarah as a translator from French to English and as an English coach. So, I don't know. What else would I say about myself, Sarah?
I don't know. Where are you originally from? Where are you now?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm originally from the States, most recently Florida. And I moved up here to Montreal, where I'm currently living, because I wanted to study French and kind of come back to my roots a little bit.
How is it related to your roots? As an American, what are your roots to Quebec?
Yes, so a long time ago, like 4 generations ago, my family moved from Gaspésie, which is a northern region up in Quebec, and they moved down into the Massachusetts area to start working in the textile mills. And so for 4 generations, or 3 generations really, they kept up the French, they kept up the culture, they passed it on to generation, and I was the last generation not to get the full experience, I guess, because, when people marry outside of the Franco-American culture, right, things get mixed up. It gets harder to kind of pass on that language. And so I came back up here to Quebec to connect back with that, to learn French, to kind of get a part of my heritage that I had missed.
Oh, it's so cool. And how long have you been up here now?
I have been here for about 7 years now already. Okay. 4 of those years were in university, and the other 3 were working.
Yeah, and I think those 3 years we've been together at Verbatim, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Pretty much from the beginning after school.
Yeah,
you started translating, school. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then as an English coach, and now as a business owner. It's a very cool progression.
Yeah, it is very cool. And all related to language, just because I wanted to come back up here to Quebec. It's pretty cool when you think about it.
Yeah.
And what about you, Sarah? Tell us about yourself.
I'm also an American, as you know, but I'm originally from Pennsylvania. I grew up in central Pennsylvania. Then I did my undergrad in Tennessee. And while I was down there, I visited Quebec just 3 weeks. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love this place. I could totally live here. I love the culture. I love the people. I love the language. I love the food. It just seemed like a great place for me to come to. And I was like, I'm going to go 2 years, try it out. And if I don't like it, no big deal. I'll just go back to the States. And if I like it, then I'll stay. So obviously I liked it. I'm here. I've been here now 21 years. I married a Quebecer, so at home I speak French. I had to learn French in an immersion program. And then I started teaching English as a second language 20 years ago already. From my basement apartment in a little town outside of Quebec City. Now we live on the other side of Quebec City in Lévis. And I don't know, I'm just really happy to be here. And I'm just really happy that we know each other, Erin and I, and we have a good relationship. It's so much fun, and we have a good working relationship, but also a good friendship. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, it's so funny. We both moved like for language reasons to learn another language, and then we both fell in love with Quebec and fell in love with Quebecers.
Yeah, exactly, because your husband is a Quebecer too, right?
Yeah, exactly, from Montreal.
Yeah, but he's more in the English speaking side of things, or does he also speak French?
Well, his family's from the Philippines, so he grew up hearing a lot of Tagalog spoken around him. But his family also did hosting for students, homestay. So they ended up speaking a lot of English. So English and Tagalog in the home. He likes to say they spoke Tagalog when they were angry. Every other time was English.
It comes out easier. Your heart language comes out when you're mad.
Yeah. But he had all his entire school up until Cégep, which is, for those of you outside of Quebec, it's kind of like the last year of high school and the first year of university combined. So 11th grade and up, he was in English. But before that, it was completely in French. So even now, he works with a team that's completely French as well, all French speakers. So
as you can tell, like, there's a lot of languages around us. We've both been language learners, but also language coaches. And so here at Verbatim, we don't just teach English. We also have French courses for people learning French. And we also have Spanish courses for people who want to learn Spanish. And we also do translation. Like Erin mentioned, she's one of our translators. We can do it in both English and French, French and English. So like all these linguistic services are our passion. We love to do it. We love to be with people who are on this language journey, because it's not just that they learn from us. We learn from them as our clients, as places they've gone to travel, and they tell us about it, or their interests, their passions. And that's the whole goal of what we do at Verbatim, is to open doors, break down barriers, allow people to just open up those horizons. That opens up opportunities for work and for travel. And that's pretty much what we'll be doing on this podcast, 20 minutes a day, is to focus on 3 aspects. First, learning a language, good tips and tricks and resources to learn, but also to then apply it to life, like apply it to traveling and applying it to work for business language. Like you said earlier, like we'll be focusing mostly on English, since both of us are English speakers, but these tips and tricks can apply to learning any language.
Exactly. And at Verbatim, we're all about building a safe space to try things out. So we want to create that in this podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of like the beginning. You're here, you're listening to English. If you're not a native English speaker, it's a practice for you. If you are a native English speaker and you just want to hear some more tips and tricks to learn another language, then you're already starting. You're already getting started. But we want to be able to provide you guys with a safe place to try things out, to make mistakes, to laugh, to move on, right? And exactly like you said, Sarah, I learn just as much from my clients as they do from me. It's always like this give and take. So we'd love for you guys to add your comments, your language journeys, other tips and tricks that you've picked up as well as you go along, any questions that you have. We want to create this like two-way street kind of thing between us and you. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. The two-way street. Like, the comments are a huge place to create a community of like all language learners with their language journeys and what they've learned and what they've experienced on this journey. So, oh, I love it. That's great, Erin. And okay, so we named this podcast 20 Minutes a Day. Why did we do that, Erin?
Yes, good question. So science shows that the best way to learn a new skill is to do it consistently and to do it a little bit every day, because it's much more effective than doing a big chunk every once in a while. So yeah, 20 minutes a day, it's a good rule of thumb. If you can work on your language skills for 20 minutes each day, then you will learn so much quicker than if you just do an hour a week.
It's so true. I see this so often with clients and also with myself when I was learning French. Just to be an active learner, not just to be there passively taking in information, but using it, trying things out. And don't just rely on the experts, but become an expert yourself. And do what you love to do already, but now just do it in a second language. You like to watch videos, you like to play video games, you like to play around on TikTok, whatever you like to do. Now try to do it again, but in your second language. Maybe you can even watch one of your favorite movies again, but now in your second language. You won't have to pay attention to the plot or like what's going on. You already know. Now you're able to like more concentrate on the language that's being used. Like you said, there's like a lot of benefits, and these have been really shown by science of 20 minutes a day or short chunks. It could be 30 minutes, but like a short amount every day. So the next 2 episodes will share some of our tips and tricks to incorporating that into life and some resources that are fun and interactive. But let's focus on like the benefits. It's like really coming back to your why. Like, why are you learning that second language? Like, really think for a second. Like, why do you want to learn English? Why do you want to learn French, Spanish, Mandarin, Tagalog, like you mentioned earlier? Why do you want to learn it? For you, Erin, like, why are you learning some of these languages that you're learning right now?
Yeah, so originally, like I said, I started to learn French to come back to my roots, but now I'm using it for business development. I'm using it more for networking, like all of our a lot of our brainstorming sessions, Sarah, with our other partner too, is all in French so that we can communicate properly and efficiently. And our podcasting training, that was in French as well. So it's just a different way to I don't know, like you said, expand the horizons. Also, the big thing for me when I'm learning a language, it's mainly so I can connect with other people. It's huge for me. I love hearing people's stories, and I think it's so impactful to be able to hear them share their stories, their life stories in their heart language, in their original language, their first language, right? And I just think it's so enriching. Yeah, because I can interact with people in their heart language. And like every time that I meet somebody, it always gives me that speaks another language that I haven't learned yet. It gives me that push to want to learn more about their culture, learn more about their language, to be able to communicate with them better. Yeah.
Like, I know, like, you were practicing your Spanish and getting ready for your trip down to Colombia. Like, you want to be able to interact with the people there and make those connections.
Mhm.
And I know that now you're focusing on your Tagalog because you're heading to the Philippines this year as well. The world traveler here.
Well, yeah, this year is extra special. It's kind of like the last hurrah. I don't know. It's like
The last hurrah before what?
I don't know, before kids, before buying a house, before settling down, any of those things, you name it.
Okay, so you just like the last hurrah before life starts.
Kind of.
That's
But
funny. You don't want real life to start.
yeah. But our Philippines trip is to connect back with my husband's family as well. And there's a lot of English that's spoken in the Philippines and a lot of other dialects outside of Tagalog. But, realistically, I can't learn everything. So
No.
I have to focus on one.
You can improve, but you can always get better, and you can.
Yeah.
While you're there, you're also going to just be immersed in the language and the culture as well.
And that's why I had to set goals. Like, we knew we were going on this trip for a year now. We've been planning it. But I also knew that the Colombia trip was coming up. So for 6 months, I had to kind of put my Tagalog aside and focus on my Spanish. Do my 20 minutes a day in Spanish, right? And so now the Colombia trip is done. So now I have to focus on my Tagalog and do my 20 minutes a day in Tagalog. So...
yeah, and sometimes when you start to lose motivation, the best thing to do is just do it. Like, say, okay, I'm in my car. I'm going to be driving anyway. I'm on my commute. I might as well just turn on the radio in the language I want to learn. Or maybe I just put in the playlist that I like, but in the language I want to learn. Like, music is a great, fun way to incorporate some language skills. Yeah. And even sometimes my clients are like, why would I want to listen to the radio in English? Like, I don't even understand what they're saying. I don't get it. And it's a lot about, and music too. It's like, it's just about catching the musicality of the language, where the accents are, where one word ends and the next one starts. I remember that was really hard for me in French, was like catching where one word ended and the next word started. And that just kind of develops over time when you just listen, even if you're not actively listening. Like, you just kind of catch those accents in that language, how it's working in the soundscape of it.
Yeah, and well, I just want to add in there, you have to remember that it's a process, and no process is linear, right?
No.
There's ups, there's downs, there's plateaus. Sometimes you get discouraged. And yeah, believe me, we know, Sarah and I, we know what it means to get discouraged in a language journey, right? Yeah. But that's why we want to be here too. Like, we want to accompany you all on this journey. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so it's important to be consistent because it builds habits. It helps you just grow exponentially in your language skills. And also, like, it takes what you're learning short term, those vocabulary, those definitions, it takes them and starts to put them in from your short term to your long term memory. So something I often say to my clients is like, don't get discouraged if you don't remember a word you just learned last week. And you're like, oh, that's right, I learned that last week. It's normal. Like, it takes about 10 times, again, a rule of thumb, 10 times of seeing or hearing or using a word in 10 different contexts before it really is assimilated. Yeah. So take your time. Don't get discouraged. Allow yourself, your brain, to absorb what it needs to learn. Be nice to your brain. Your brain can only handle so much at a time.
Yes. It's a very important muscle.
Yes.
But just like anything, it needs to be trained, right? It needs to have this consistency. And that's why that 20 minutes a day is so important. For any habit that you want to build, you need consistency. You need this habit, this thing that you're starting to get going, right? And it has to be sustainable, right? It can't be something that you say you're going to do and you create this like huge big goal and then you don't put it into bite-sized chunks, so it just seems insurmountable, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, right? But that's why, consistency, small chunks, 20 minutes a day. So each day you just have to think, okay, I just have to do 20 minutes. That's it.
Small wins. You can do it. I know that you were talking to me earlier about these small wins when you were on your trip to Morocco. And
Yes.
again, world traveler. So tell us about that.
Yeah, small wins are so, so, so important. Like, you have to celebrate them. You just have to. Even if they seem so stupid and insignificant, no, nothing is insignificant when you're learning a language. So, like Sarah was mentioning, my first year of university, after that first year, so that first summer, I did a little internship in Morocco. And so I was working with a local language school there, and they had this program developed in French and in English and in the local Moroccan dialect called Darija. And I got to experience just a little bit of what it was like to learn some Darija while I was there. And I just remember the first time that I was able to understand what someone was saying in context. And I didn't even get the whole thing. I didn't get the entire sentence or the entire question. I just got 2 words, and I knew that one was talking about milk and one was talking about juice. And they were asking me, which type of drink do you want? One with a milk base or with a juice base? And I was so happy that I had heard that and I had understood that. And even when I got back from Morocco, I was telling all of my friends about that one experience that I had where it was just beginning to solidify in my brain. And that's what you need to do. You need to be excited about those little tiny things. And somebody might say, really, that's all you got, milk and juice? But so what? It's super important, and that's just like the first step, just the beginning of your language journey.
It's like that little light bulb like goes off in your head. You're like, oh, I caught that.
Yeah.
And my big question, though, is which did you choose, milk or juice-based?
That's a good question. To be honest, I don't really remember after that. Knowing me, I probably chose something with milk-based, though.
Oh, okay. Do you put milk in that tea that you have there?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good thing to know. And it's also, your brain is a muscle, kind of like you were saying earlier, Erin. Like, it's a muscle, so it also needs exercise. It needs, like a sport, like it needs to practice a little bit every day. Like, sometimes I see ourselves as language coaches almost like a gymnastics coach, like perfecting what needs to be perfected a little bit, like corrected. And just, if you do it over and over again in the right way, it becomes muscle memory. It just becomes automatic without thinking about it anymore. And just kind of focusing on what you're doing right and just repeating what you're doing right, and it'll just become second nature over time. Like an instrument too, like people playing the piano. And then even if you go back to like the idea of riding a bike, like you can get on a bike after years and you just know how to do it. It's your muscle memory. And actually, I was thinking about this recently. We were doing karaoke with some friends from high school, and we're like, how do we know all these lyrics to these obscure songs from the 90s? Like, how is this happening? And we're like, it must be muscle memory. Like, our brain can still sing every line to Coolio's Gangsta's Paradise. It just comes right on out.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And so how much more effective would that be if it was in your second or your third language, right? So but that's why music is so important as well, because it's like the rhythms and the beats and the notes, like putting words to music like that, you know, it helps your brain to make those connections between them. But yeah, just like you were saying, your brain needs regular practice, and your mouth needs regular practice, right? To get used to new sounds that it's doing. A lot of times French speakers coming into English have problems with the TH, the sound, right? Or English speakers going into French have problems with the R because it's not the same. We don't use the back of our throat in English, but you do.
And I still can't do the Spanish R in the front either. Like, I'm like in the middle. I'm a good English speaker. My R is in the middle. Like it's so it's so hard to get that pronunciation and do it correctly, consistently.
Yes, but that's why little bit every day, consistent practice, and just doing it, just getting your mouth to go along with the motions, even if it's not perfect, right? Communication, not perfection. That's our goal.
Oh, I love it. Communication, not perfection. Perfect. And it looks like our 20 minutes there are coming to a close. Do you hear that timer counting down?
I sure do.
Okay. So remember to rate, subscribe, and tell all your friends about this podcast so that we can help other people on their language journeys as well.
Yes, and one thing that we wanted to initiate from this first episode is a vocabulary review. So perhaps you can listen again tomorrow to find out what these words or expressions mean. You can write them down in the comments of the episode. And so we had nitty-gritty, rely on, and commute is something that we talked about. So at the end of the season, we'll create a crossword with all of these things so that you'll be able to practice them.
Yeah, we'll make a crossword so that you can see the definitions, but get out a little vocabulary notebook, write these words down. So today there was nitty-gritty, rely on, like you rely on your coach or your English teacher too much instead of being an active learning. Commute, like you can learn or listen to the radio on your commute as you get to work. And write down these words and see if you can find out what they mean. Use a dictionary. I love the Longman's Wordwise Dictionary. And they have an online version online for free. And go write down the words, write down definitions, and then you'll get the answers at our last episode with the crossword that we'll put in the show notes. So, Erin, it looks like one's in the books. That was quite a ride.
It was quite a ride. It went by super quick.
Yeah. So, goodbye, adios, au revoir from Quebec City.
Yep, and signing off from Montreal. À la prochaine. Hi everyone! Want to find out what your English level is? You can see if you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced by taking our quiz at verbatim.ca/quiz. You can find the link in the show notes below.